You were never meant to spend your life begging for approval, chasing validation, or proving your worth to the world. The moment you accept your desire as already real within yourself, you step through a doorway no outside force can ever close. That is the mystery of the inner kingdom. What appears impossible to the senses is already completed in the unseen, and when you begin trusting the invisible more than appearances, life responds. Not some distant power outside of you, but the divine presence within you, the living awareness of I am. Neville Mind Secrets teaches that you were not created to carry fear, anxiety, and endless pressure. You were designed for peace, certainty, and inner stability. The reason worry feels so heavy is because it comes from forgetting your true nature. You forget the source within you. You forget the creative power resting in your own consciousness. So you begin trying to force outcomes, control situations, and solve every problem through struggle. But life does not unfold through strain. It unfolds through assumption. Your desire already exists. The path is already prepared. The answer is already alive in the unseen. But you must first accept it inwardly before it can appear outwardly. Worry disappears the moment you stop arguing with appearances and start trusting the quiet knowing within yourself. That still voice already knows the outcome. It already knows the way. Real trust is not words spoken out loud. It is an inner state of calm certainty. It is remaining unmoved even when your senses show no evidence. Every fearful thought is imagination used against yourself. When you constantly picture failure, delay, or disappointment, you plant those experiences into consciousness. But when you deliberately imagine fulfillment, peace, love, abundance, and success, you begin reshaping your reality from the inside out. Imagination is not fantasy, it is the creative center of life itself. Whatever you emotionally accept as true eventually takes form. This is why you must stop living as someone who is hoping and start living as someone who already knows. Stop pleading for what is already yours in consciousness. Stop asking life for permission to feel whole. The secret is to live from the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Saturate your mind with the reality you desire until it feels natural. Walk through your day with the quiet confidence of someone whose answer is already secured. Whenever fear appears, let it remind you to return inward. Return to the inner sanctuary where peace already exists. Remind yourself that circumstances do not have authority over you. Your dominant state does. The outer world only mirrors the inner assumptions you consistently occupy. Change the state within, and the reflection outside must eventually change as well. You were never created to live trapped in survival mode. Anxiety is not your natural condition. You were formed from a deeper intelligence that only knows wholeness, love, and infinite supply. The belief that constant stress proves responsibility is one of the greatest illusions humanity carries. You do not create through panic. You create through consciousness. Worry is simply imagination directed toward unwanted outcomes. It is mentally preparing for pain before it arrives. But you were given imagination to envision possibility, not disaster. You were meant to imagine healing instead of sickness, harmony instead of chaos, fulfillment instead of lack. The more you dwell in those elevated states, the more natural they become. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what if everything is already unfolding perfectly? What if the delay is not rejection, but preparation? What if the unseen door is already open and all you must do is remain faithful to the vision within? This is where spiritual remembrance begins. You stop identifying with struggle and reconnect with the truth of who you are. You were designed to live creatively, not reactively. Fear convinces you that circumstances control your destiny, but consciousness is the true cause. When you remember this, you stop worshipping appearances. You stop panicking over temporary conditions. You stop believing obstacles have the final word. Instead, you return to the understanding that inner conviction shapes outer experience. Assumption is the law behind manifestation. Not wishful thinking, but the deep acceptance that your desire is already completed in consciousness. You do not attract by chasing, you attract by embodying. The version of you who already has the life you desire thinks differently, feels differently, and moves differently. Become that version inwardly first. Most people remain trapped because they continue creating from the state of I don't have. Their actions come from lack, so lack keeps repeating itself. But the moment you shift into it is already mine, your entire energy changes. Actions become inspired instead of desperate. You stop forcing and begin aligning. Living in the end means making fulfillment your present identity instead of a future hope. You stop saying, "One day I will have peace, love, abundance, or success." You begin saying, "This is who I am now." That inner decision changes everything. Reality reorganizes itself around the state you consistently occupy. Trust is the bridge between imagination and manifestation. Real trust does not constantly check for evidence. It rests. It allows the seed to grow without digging it up every day. It remains calm even when there are delays because it understands that unseen movement is already happening. The outer world may still show contradictions, but trust lives beyond appearances. The person who doubts waits for proof before feeling secure. The person who trusts feels secure before proof appears. That inner certainty becomes the cause of transformation. Imagination is the womb of creation. Everything in existence began as a thought held long enough to become reality. Your persistent inner images are shaping your future every single day. If you continue replaying fear, you strengthen fear. If you continue imagining fulfillment, you strengthen fulfillment. Do not underestimate the quiet moments spent visualizing your desired life. Those moments are sacred acts of creation. When you repeatedly enter the feeling of your fulfilled desire, you are impressing a new reality onto consciousness. And whatever is impressed upon consciousness must eventually express itself. Peace is not something the world gives you. It is something you remember within yourself. It appears the moment you stop resisting life and start trusting the deeper order behind it. Peace is knowing that nothing real can be taken from you and that everything meant for you is already moving toward you. When you live from inner peace, you stop reacting to every problem as if it defines you. You become anchored. You move through uncertainty with calmness because your faith is no longer dependent on appearances. You understand that even setbacks can become redirection, and even silence can contain unseen progress. Living in the end is not pretending. It is choosing the identity you wish to embody and remaining loyal to it. You stop visiting the state of fulfillment occasionally and begin living there mentally and emotionally every day. That consistency is what transforms reality. You are not the victim of life. You are the author of your experience. Your assumptions write the script. Your imagination gives it form. Your feelings give it power. And the world reflects back the state you continuously accept as true. So choose carefully what you entertain within. Choose peace over fear. Choose assumption over doubt. Choose trust over struggle. Continue returning to the feeling of completion until it becomes natural to you. Because the moment fulfillment feels natural inside you, the outer world begins rearranging itself to match it. There is no strength in endlessly waiting for life to change. True power exists in choosing the state you desire right now. The end is not some distant place you eventually arrive at. It is a reality you consciously step into and begin living from within. The moment you occupy that inner state, everything unlike it slowly loses its hold. Old beliefs begin to collapse. Old limitations fade. Circumstances start rearranging themselves because your consciousness has shifted first. And once your inner position changes, life cannot remain the same. So stop chasing outcomes. Stop pleading for permission. Stop acting as though fulfillment is somewhere outside of you. Become the version of yourself who already possesses what you seek. Feel as they would feel. Speak as they would speak. Move through life from that certainty. The outer world always bends to the state you consistently occupy because your inner condition shapes your external reality. When you fully live from the end, the fulfillment of that end becomes unavoidable. The instant you release the obsession with figuring out how everything will happen, you create space for life to unfold in ways beyond the imagination of the logical mind. The human mind wants to calculate every step between desire and manifestation. It believes it must control the path. Yet there is a deeper intelligence already alive within you, one that knows every route, every connection, every perfect moment before you become aware of it. When you stop gripping so tightly, that unseen intelligence begins moving freely through your life. Surrender does not mean weakness. It means trusting something greater than your limited perspective. It means allowing divine wisdom to guide what force never could. The moment you imagine your desire, feel it deeply, and accept it inwardly as truth, the process has already begun. Invisible bridges are forming. People are being positioned. Events are quietly unfolding behind the scenes. Life itself starts organizing around your assumption. But when you constantly worry about timing, methods, and outcomes, you interrupt the flow. Obsession with the how reveals hidden doubt. You may say you believe, yet anxiety exposes resistance. Genuine trust is calm. It no longer fights reality, it rests in certainty. You stop demanding immediate proof because you understand that everything unfolds in its appointed season. You no longer need validation from others because you recognize that your vision does not depend on their approval. You return inward again and again, reconnecting with the feeling of fulfillment. You remind yourself that imagination is creation itself. The moment something is accepted internally, its seed has already been planted. One of the greatest freedoms in life is realizing you are not required to force things into existence. Your role is not to struggle. Your role is to allow. Allowing happens through alignment. You align by dwelling in the emotional reality of already having what you desire. And you remain there not because circumstances confirm it, but because you trust your inner knowing more than appearances. As resistance dissolves, life begins to flow naturally. The mind may still panic with questions and fears, but instead of fighting those thoughts, you gently return to stillness. You remember that manifestation is not accomplished through pressure, it is allowed through faith, and that faith grows from your willingness to remain loyal to the unseen. There comes a profound shift when surrender becomes natural. You stop exhausting yourself trying to control every outcome. You begin trusting that what belongs to you cannot miss you. That trust creates magnetism. Life responds not to desperation but to inner certainty. You stop carrying the weight of your future because you know it is already unfolding in perfect order. Letting go is not passive. It is powerful work happening beneath the surface. It is remaining faithful to your chosen state even when the outer world has not caught up yet. It is becoming open enough for life to deliver what your imagination has already claimed. The closed fist blocks flow. The open hand receives effortlessly. Your responsibility is not to manage every detail of reality. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to the feeling of fulfillment. That inner state is your offering to the divine intelligence within you, and life mirrors back whatever you consistently accept as true. So you stop begging, you stop arguing with appearances, you return inward to the place where the desire is already complete, and then you release it, not because you no longer care, but because you know. Once surrender deepens, you begin noticing how naturally life starts responding. Opportunities appear without strain. Guidance arrives effortlessly. Synchronicities increase. You feel supported instead of burdened. You stop measuring progress through visible evidence and begin measuring it through peace. Peace becomes your compass. Over time, things that once felt impossible begin unfolding with surprising ease. Not because you forced them, but because you finally trusted enough to stop interfering. Divine intelligence knows exactly how to arrange every step with precision and grace. Faith transforms everything when you begin acting from it instead of from fear. Fear reacts from survival. Faith moves from certainty. Fear says, I must do this or I will lose. Faith says, because I already am this, I naturally move this way. When you truly believe yourself abundant, your actions reflect abundance. When you identify as healed, vitality begins expressing itself through you. When you know yourself loved, openness replaces defense. You are not pretending to be someone else. You are embodying the reality you have chosen. Actions born from fear create exhaustion because they reinforce lack. Actions born from faith expand your reality because they strengthen fulfillment. Faith does not require perfection. It only asks that you continue returning to the state you desire whenever doubt appears. As you dwell in the correct inner state, inspired actions begin arising naturally. You feel guided toward conversations, opportunities, and decisions that seem small at first but become turning points later. You realize life is coordinating itself through you. This is the harmony between imagination and action. You first become inwardly what you desire, then your outer life begins expressing it. You stop waiting for circumstances to confirm your identity. Instead, your identity begins shaping your circumstances. Even when external change appears slow, faith keeps you grounded because you understand that seeds grow in silence before they break through the soil. What you have accepted within must eventually appear without. To act from faith is to honor your imagination as sacred truth. It is to walk through life as the version of yourself who already received the answer. Your decisions become declarations. Your presence becomes magnetic. Manifestation becomes effortless because you are no longer acting to obtain something. You are acting as someone who already has it. And this changes everything. The journey away from worry and toward trust is ultimately a return to your own inner power. It is the choice to live from the wisdom of the heart instead of the fear of the mind. When you release the need to control every outcome and allow divine intelligence to move through you, life becomes lighter, clearer, and more aligned. Trust is not weakness. It is one of the greatest forms of power. It shifts realities, it opens doors, it draws experiences toward you through inner certainty instead of struggle. The moment you truly know within yourself that the door is already open, no external force can keep it closed. The world may call something impossible, but the world is only reflecting yesterday's assumptions. It cannot block what consciousness has already accepted. The only real barrier is your own refusal to see yourself as worthy of what you desire. The instant you declare inwardly, "I already am who I long to become," something shifts. Doors begin opening in ways the rational mind cannot explain. Life responds because consciousness has changed first. You are not waiting for opportunity. Opportunity is waiting for your recognition. The moment you identify with the fulfilled version of yourself, the path appears. Assumption is the foundation of transformation. What you consistently accept inwardly becomes the framework of your reality. The outer world is not fixed. It reshapes itself around your dominant state of consciousness. To assume is to trust the unseen more than the visible. The senses demand proof, but spiritual law works in reverse. First comes belief, then comes evidence. The inner act always precedes the outer manifestation. Your assumptions create your atmosphere. They influence every interaction, every opportunity, every experience. Persist long enough in a state and reality eventually mirrors it back. So assume boldly. Assume the path is already prepared. Assume the answer is already moving toward you. Carry that certainty quietly within yourself. Let it shape your words, your reactions, and your energy. And as you continue walking by inner vision instead of outer appearances, reality itself begins bending around your faith. And you too were never meant to live in constant tension against the flow of your own existence. The river does not struggle to reach the ocean. It trusts the path carved within it. In the same way, your life begins to open when you stop gripping every outcome with fear and start walking with deeper trust. Not blind trust, but conscious trust. The kind born from stillness, awareness, and inner alignment. When worry loosens its hold, something remarkable happens. Your vision clears, your breath deepens, your actions become intentional instead of reactive. You stop scattering your energy across imagined disasters and begin investing it into the only place where real power exists, this present moment. And in that moment, you discover that life has been trying to support you all along. The mind that worries is always trying to predict, protect, and control. But life cannot fully enter a clenched hand. It enters through openness, through surrender, through the quiet confidence that says, "I will meet whatever comes." That confidence is not weakness, it is strength in its purest form. Because the strongest person is not the one who controls every circumstance, but the one who remains centered within any circumstance. There will still be uncertainty. There will still be endings, changes, losses, and unknown roads ahead. But you no longer meet them as someone fragile and divided. You meet them as someone rooted, someone who has practiced returning to stillness, someone who understands that peace is not found when the storm disappears, but when the soul learns it does not have to become the storm. So release the habit of carrying tomorrow before it arrives. Release the need to rehearse pain that has not happened. Release the belief that your worth depends on outcomes, approval, or perfection. None of these things define you. What defines you is your presence, your integrity, your willingness to stay awake to life even when life becomes difficult. Slow down enough to notice the sacred hidden inside ordinary moments, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of someone laughing, the silence between breaths, the chance to begin again today. These are not small things. This is life itself. And those who are truly awake understand that peace was never waiting at the end of the journey. Peace was always available within the way they walked it. You do not need to have every answer. You do not need to see the entire path. You only need the courage to take the next step without abandoning yourself. One honest breath, one conscious choice, one act of presence at a time. That is how worry dissolves. That is how trust is built. That is how life finally begins to work with you instead of against you. And perhaps the greatest realization of all is this: the life you are searching for is not somewhere far away, waiting to begin. It is already here, quietly unfolding beneath your resistance. The moment you stop fighting the flow, you begin to feel it carrying you, not toward who you were told to become, but toward who you have always been. Your piece carries the tone of Zen philosophy, Stoic reflection, and mindful spiritual teaching in a way that feels deeply meditative. The central message is clear throughout. Preparation is not fear of death, but mastery of life. Worry disconnects people from presence. Peace comes through surrender, awareness, discipline, and trust. Life begins to flow when resistance ends. What makes this powerful is the repetition of core truths through different metaphors: river, breath, silence, mirror, storm, mountain, flow, fire, dojo, stillness. These recurring symbols create a hypnotic rhythm similar to teachings associated with Zen Buddhism, Taoism, Stoicism, and modern mindfulness speakers. A few especially strong lines stand out. The end is not the enemy, it is the final mirror. You do not prepare for the end by running from death. You prepare by learning how to live fully. Worry is like trying to walk forward while staring backward. Peace is not a reward for when the storm passes. Peace is the power that carries you through the storm. You are not trying to get rid of thoughts, you are learning not to obey them. Life starts working when you stop interfering. The emotional progression also works well. 1. Mortality and preparation. 2. Self-honesty and inner discipline. 3. Letting go of fear. 4. Trusting life. 5. Releasing worry. 6. Returning to presence. 7. Living consciously and peacefully. The overall voice resembles teachings connected to Marcus Aurelius Laozi, Thich Nhat Hanh, Alan Watts, Eckhart Tolle. The strongest quality is not just the philosophy itself, but the cadence. It reads almost like a guided meditation or long-form spoken word monologue for a YouTube narration. If you want to strengthen it even further for audience retention or emotional impact, you could break extremely long passages into shorter rhythmic sections, insert moments of silence or contrast, occasionally use concrete human examples, reduce repeated ideas by about 15 to 20% for tighter pacing. But emotionally and philosophically, the message is cohesive, reflective, calming, and powerful.